Okay, what better way to start a live session than with technical problems, right? It's just the best way to start, absolutely. But listen, we are here. And hello, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in a part of the world. And welcome to this very, very, very special live episode where I am going to be doing. Okay, so let me set the context, right? Let me before we get into what we're talking about today. In case you're here and maybe you just dropped by and you don't know what's going on, but you just thought, hey, Mildred is live, let me jump on, right? So in this live session, in this special month of June, I am doing a whole series about how to build a visible and profitable business on LinkedIn. Because why? Because it is important, it is essential, it is necessary, it is interesting, and there is so much to say on this topic. So, for 2 days of each week this month, I am going to be talking about this whole topic of how to build a visible and profitable business on LinkedIn. Now, on Mondays, every Monday night, just like tonight, I've got a real special treat for you. I'm going to be in conversation with a fantastic businesswoman who happens to be a client as well, where we're going to talk about their own journey to building a visible and profitable business on LinkedIn and beyond. So that's going to be every Monday night in June. So night, because here in the UK it's 6 o'clock, so it'll be from 6 to 7 p.m. So set your calendar, set your diary, and join me here every Monday night for that conversation. Now, on Tuesdays, every Tuesday afternoon from 1 o'clock. What time did I say? 1 o'clock, not 6 o'clock on Tuesday, 1 o'clock lunchtime on Tuesdays. I'm going to be here doing a solo episode on that same topic of how to build a visible and profitable business on LinkedIn. And it will be just me and you over lunch. So bring your lunch on Tuesday lunchtimes and we're going to make that happen. So tonight, I am going to be in conversation with a really, really, really awesome businesswoman who is also I have the pleasure of having calling her a client as well. And I'm going to introduce her to you in just a minute. But for now, if you were tuning in, just like Andre, Tanya, Jelena, and Wamaka have done, hi. I want you to drop a hello in the comments. Let me know who you are and where in the world you're tuning in from. And also let me know if you have a business, because we are going to be diving into some real stuff about visibility and about business. So if you have a business, this session is going to help you. If you don't have a business, then this session will inspire you to go and get one and make it happen, right? So either way, you're going to win, okay? So just drop a hello in the comments and let me know who you are and where you are tuning in from. And then as I go along in this conversation, because it's a conversation, I like to have conversations. There are so many amazing women on LinkedIn doing amazing things. So I like to have conversations with them. And you can check out ones that I've done in the past in my Visible Woman on LinkedIn series on YouTube. The link should be somewhere in the comments here. So we are going to have a really great conversation today. And as we do it, if you have any questions, drop them in the comments, because I will ask my lovely guest, who I will introduce in just a second. I will ask her the questions as well as we go along. So good to see you. Tanya from the UK. Michelle from Los Angeles has just launched a boutique business. Hi, Michelle. Excellent. Wonderful. Hi, Alison and Surrey. Carol, first time watching. Nice to have you with us. Dr. Shay from New York. Hello. Lara from USA, Maryland. We got Shelly from Dallas. We've even got Wamaka from Nigeria. I love it. Keep them rolling in, ladies and gents. So good to see you. James, Kathy May, Gonza Goose. So good to see you. Listen, let me bring in my guest. My guest for today's session is an amazing dynamic businesswoman who goes by the name of Michela Quilici. Now, Michela has a special niche of she's a business growth coach, and she helps businesswomen to navigate their path out of sticky and muddy waters into the right place that they want to be in their business. I'm going to get her to explain it in her own words in just a second, but please give me a virtual round of applause as I bring Michela to the stage. Hi, Michela.
Hi, Mildred. How are you?
I am so good. I am so happy to have you on this session and to have this conversation with you. So I think from the beginning, I want you to introduce yourself in your own words to our audience and tell us who you are and what it is that you do.
All right. Thanks, Mildred. Hi there. My name is Michela, and I call myself a business navigator. And what does that mean? That means that I help business owners find their clear path to growth. So typically, they come to me when they are stuck, they don't have traction in their business, they've hit a plateau, they've hit a wall, and they're looking for that clear path to get noticed, get clients, and get profitable. So I am a business growth coach. I'm a brand and marketing strategist as well. And when I work with my clients, I really take a holistic view of their business in general and really kind of get under the hood of the business, Mildred, to really kind of see, what's working, what's not working, and how do we create a strategic path forward that's super aligned also to who they are and what their strengths are and how they want to show up in the world.
Wow, wow, wow. I love that. I love that. There's so much to unpack in all of that, right? Because it's so important, right, that we have a business that is aligned to who we are if we're going to enjoy the work that we do. So that's definitely something that's important to bring up, but we will get to the business part. So because this is about building a visible and profitable business, the first question I want to ask you really is, what does visibility mean to you? How do you define visibility, and what does that term mean to you?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question because I talk a lot about this as well in what I teach and my content about visibility. And so for me, I have a really personal story around visibility and how I come to define it. So for me, it's really about stepping into who you are to be seen and to be heard. And so that comes from my own personal story of not being seen and heard, and hiding in plain sight for decades, and not thinking that I had a voice, and not thinking that I had a message to share. And so to me, what it means to be visible is to really stand up and show yourself, and really step out of the shadows and into your own spotlight, because we all have a message to share. We all have a personal story that is more than likely tied to our why of, why we're doing the business that we've chosen to do. And so being visible is about really pulling out that story and that message and leveraging it as a way to draw attention to who you are as a brand, so that people are connecting with you, so that people really get a sense of who you are. I'm a big believer in what I call marketing from the inside out. So it's really all about showing, who you are authentically, what you stand for, what you believe in, what your story is, and using that as a tool to create a powerful brand, and getting that exposure for your business.
I love that. And I do want to hear more of your personal story for sure, and how you got into it, because yeah, that visibility it's a big thing. And for me, for example, it's like I didn't even know what that word was, in for most of my adulthood, but I realized later as an adult that I was doing the exact opposite. I was spending a lot of time trying to be invisible. I didn't want to be seen. I didn't want to be heard. I wanted to kind of, hide in behind the scenes, and look at me today. Very, very different, So
Yeah,
yes.
absolutely. And I find that, I think you also find with the people that you work with, Mildred, and that there's, we have a lot of clever hiding strategies, right? And a lot of those are, to keep us safe. And so I find a lot of women are a little bit hesitant, right, to show themselves and to share their message for a number of different reasons. But I do find that when we do come out, right, and step into our spotlight, it's this birthing process, right, that happens where you then really get to stand in full alignment with who you are and really show up and take a stand and have a voice and have a voice for something. And, you know, a lot of the women that I work with are, you know, they've got this personal story that is woven into their gifts and their expertise. And a lot of them are standing for something, you know, they're creating a movement. They're, you know, they're a beacon for a group of people or for, you know, for a cause or some such thing. And so being visible is really important if you want to, if you have a message and you have a calling and you know that you're here for something bigger to really create an impact and, you know, create something that is almost, you know, outside of yourself, you know what I mean? Like it's like divine, you know what I mean? It's not just like a nice to have, but it's a need to have, because your, you know, your soul, your purpose is pushing you, is calling you forward to share this. And so it's bigger than you is what I'm saying. It's bigger than you, right?
Yeah, definitely. I had a conversation today with a future client, and where she came to me for exactly what you described, is this whole thing of she's got to the stage of her career and her life where she's like, I need to be visible. It's no longer a want, it's not a nice to have. It's like I need to be visible, because there's so much inside of me that if I don't start showing up and sharing it, I'm just gonna go to the grave with that, and that will be the worst thing that can happen for me. So yeah, it is pretty big. So people sometimes get the impression that it's just about, oh, we're just putting ourselves out there for likes and all of that, but there's a real mission and purpose behind it, you know, behind all this visibility. But I want to know, what was your earliest experience of visibility in the form that you now know it? You know, what was that like for you?
Oh gosh. So for me, when I left my job, essentially 13, I guess it was 13 years ago, I was a marketing leader inside growth stage startups. And I left to find, you know, my own purpose driven work. And so that's when I started my own coaching and consulting business. And at that time, really naively, I thought that, you know, I could just maybe write some blogs and, you know, go to some networking events and, you know, I would get clients. And I noticed right away that I really needed to be putting myself out there in a more strategic way and really being visible in a more consistent way. Because the clients were just not coming in. You know, it was almost like I was waiting to be discovered in a way. And, you know, I thought if I could just show up at a few places, you know, I would start getting clients. Well, now I know, like now I call that playing hide and seek with your marketing, right? So it wasn't until I really realized early on that I needed to be speaking and I needed to be sharing my message publicly in a much bigger way, because I wasn't getting the clients. I wasn't growing like I wanted to. And so I started public speaking on stages. And that's really how I got my start in terms of getting the visibility and getting seen and starting to really turn that visibility into profitability in a strategic way. So for me, it was, and it still is primarily speaking on other people's stages is really what gets me the big visibility.
Yes. And Giselle says in the comments, you know, so Giselle says introversion plays a big part, because we're talking about visibility. And one of the things that people automatically jump to is the conclusion that you need to be an extrovert, you know, to be visible. You need to want to be in the limelight. You need to love these stuff from birth. Giselle, I can tell you that I am definitely 100% an introvert. You know, that is my personality type. But I speak on visibility. I've been paid to speak multiple times on many platforms in front of hundreds of people and all of that kind of stuff. But it's 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 more than a personality type thing, isn't it, Michaela? Because for you, you shared about how your personal story propelled you into this, and I know you had a speech impediment growing up, you know. So can you tell us a bit more about that, and also speak to this whole introvert extrovert thing around visibility?
Yeah, absolutely. Giselle, that's a really good question that you brought up around introversion, because I'm also an introvert. And so, you know, it's really about finding your way. It's finding your way to be visible and share your message. And, the whole thing about introversion and extroversion, being visible, even whether you're speaking on a stage, in front of a crowd, whether you're speaking into a video, whether you're going on live like this, at the end of the day, what I, had to come to terms with, because I had a lot of that going through my mind as well, is like, I'm not an extrovert. I'm not comfortable having all of this spotlight on me. But what really shifted for me was when I realized that I'm really just having a one-on-one conversation with many different people. And so once I reframed that in terms of, I'm talking to one person, I'm talking to my ideal, perfect future client. And I'm just having I'm having a one-way conversation with that person, and being really clear on who they are and what they care about, and being clear on my message and where that intersection is between where my message resonates with what they care about. Once you really start focusing on that, then it becomes less about whether you're an extrovert or not, or whether you have, stage fright or, issues with public speaking. It's really more about the message itself and really getting comfortable with that piece of it. I grew up very shy, very introverted, in a family where I didn't feel like I had a voice. I developed a speech impediment very early on. And so I hid from speaking, and I shied away from any type of speaking at all. And it really influenced my choices in life until I got to a place where I really knew I needed to do something about it and get some support. And at which point I did in my early, late teens. And then it wasn't until 30 years old that actually I started to dance to overcome performance anxiety. And through my experience with dance, I got more and more confident with, having the spotlight on me. And that led to being more confident in speaking in public, on stages in front of hundreds of people. So it's a process for sure. And there's definitely skills that need to be, shored up on. Absolutely. But the message is where you can, really, really place more emphasis on that message.
I'm curious to know, Michela, what was it like with that dance? So you use dance as a way to kind of break out of that desire to hide for you, right? I know I've done a number of things. The dance includes one of them, but I did one performance at college. It was like the worst idea ever, but I did it because I wanted to push myself out of my comfort zone. And then I also remember I signed up for singing class one time. My sisters made me do it, and I have like the worst singing voice ever. But I had to perform in front of people. I wanted to die. I literally wanted to die. But I did it because again, it pushed me out of my comfort zone. So the question I want to know is like, what was it that was driving you to be better? Instead of, you could have settled for, this is just how I am, this is how I was made, and just get on with life. What made you want to be more than what you were at the time?
Yeah. So ever since I was little, I knew deep in my heart and my soul and my spirit that the stutter wasn't who I authentically was. I just knew. I don't know how I knew, but there was a little gut whisper inside of me that knew that this wasn't who I authentically was. And so that became the driver to create change. And that really became the drive for not settling for what was so, but to start creating what I wanted, and just to find answers and to grow and to evolve and to become the person that I knew that I was deep down inside. So it was very much a soul-led journey. And then that became my purpose, right? That then became the purpose of my life, was to really understand who I was and to find my voice and to connect with that. And so that was a really big piece of it for me. If you can, and when you can really get clear, and this is a process of who you are and what your purpose is and what your why is, that then becomes the thing that propels you forward into creating success, right? So I feel like for me, I was doing one of, there were two things going on. I was either running away from fear, or I was running towards success rather. And so I chose the running towards success route. And that became the thing that pulled me forward, is this higher purpose to heal and to grow and to evolve, because there was obviously a reason why I had, the wounding around the speech. And I used that as the gift to bring forward. And that's what we normally have. There's normally that gift there that needs to be uncovered. And that then becomes the thing, right? That is the torch that you use to drive yourself forward. Because unless we are really compelled by something greater than our fear, we won't move forward, right? We'll be stuck in that fear. We'll be stuck in those hiding strategies. We'll be stuck, at the back of the room, always being the supporter, never being in the front, right? Staying in the shadows. And so finding that purpose, that vision, having that mission and your why is really important to use that as a way to propel you forward, to be seen, to be heard, no matter what, and to have the courage, right, to start walking that road as you are refining the message. And that's the key, is that I think a lot of people, they don't step out fully because their message is kind of half-baked, right? They don't know for sure what it is, that they want to say, or it's just maybe not complete. But the key is to have that, right? That vision and that purpose to get you out there. And then once you're out there sharing the message, it starts to take its own shape.
Okay. Just out of interest, what role did your family play in all this? Did they support you with the speech impediment? Were they aware of the struggles you were going through, or was it just normal to them?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, because I think they were doing the best that they could. But I was getting a lot of mixed messages. So, I was getting some people who were in my world, whether it was teachers, doctors, and family. I'll just lump all of that together. My community, my caregivers. There were a lot of mixed messages. So some of them ignored it. So it wasn't being validated. Some of them would tell me that it was all in my head. Some would say that I had a motor skill issue and my brain wasn't wired right. And some would kind of make fun of it in a way. And so it wasn't really, they didn't, back then there weren't really there wasn't much awareness, I think, and tools and knowledge of, how to support. And I think I also downplayed it too, because I didn't talk about it a lot. I really was doing a lot of hiding. And so maybe they didn't know that it was really wreaking havoc on my mental health, mental, emotional health, and physical health. I would make myself sick for not wanting to speak. And so I was lucky and fortunate enough to meet have a couple of key people in my life and who really supported me on the journey to getting help and, to getting me into a better way. But yeah, a lot of that drive really came from me just really standing up and saying, no, this is not normal, and I don't want it to be like this, and I want to get help. And so, it's incredible what happens, right? When you actually take a stand for something that's important to you, and then the help shows up, right? And then you get the guidance and you get the support. And sometimes from the most unlikely places, right? Little earth angels that come to support you along the way.
Yes, yes. And I think Kathy, that kind of lends itself to Kathy May's question. So Kathy May asking that, did either of us do any public speaking training, or did that come with the decision to step out of the comfort zone? So myself, I did. I ended up joining Toastmasters, the organization, to kind of, it wasn't so much the speaking training, but to get comfortable speaking in front of people, because like you, Michela, I was like, it was the worst thing ever to have to stand up and speak in front of people. I didn't have a speech impediment. I just had I can't do this sort of thing, like a fear, like most people do, sort of stuff. So in my early adulthood is when I joined Toastmasters, and and that helped a lot, because it's that whole stage time, kind of making sure that you have a space and a place where you can speak is important. But what about you, Michela? Did you do public speaking training?
So I didn't do anything like Toastmasters, but I did have speaker coaches, if you will. So I hired, I invested in speaker coaches to help me kind of design my talks and help me pull out pieces of my story. I also studied a lot. So I would pick a couple of speakers, right, that I really liked, and I would study them, and I would be like their secret mentee, if you will, and just really, studied how they did things, and I took any sort of kind of trainings that they offered on structuring speaking and that kind of thing, and how to speak to sell in particular. So what I learned in the training that I took was really about how to tell the story, how to weave your story in, and how to sell and teach in a talk to convert. So that was really, those are some of the skills I bring into how I help my clients as well. So so it was more along those lines. And also the other piece of it, which I want to mention, which is really, really important, was really important for me, is to put myself in situations where I had to speak. So whether it was showing up at a networking event where I had to do my 1-minute introduction, every event, every week, whether it was putting my hand up for an opportunity to have, a 5-minute spotlight at the front of the room at an event, whatever the case was, just putting myself in a situation where I would volunteer myself to show up and to speak, whether it was for a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, so that I could get comfortable, so that I get comfortable on the stage. And so putting yourself in those positions to do that is really, really, really important, because you get that community, you get supported, you get encouragement, and you have a safe space to practice. And so I know for a lot of introverts, to go from not speaking at all to speaking on a stage in front of even a handful of people can be quite daunting. And so taking those baby steps can be a really great way. Another thing that I did was I used to do videos. So I'd video myself, a minute to share a tip or what have you. And I would just do that as a practice. I would put it out as content, but in my mind, it was practice.
Yeah.
So any opportunity I got to practice, I took it, and then I refined it, and reviewed it and found ways to get better and to improve.
It's that whole thing of not staying in your comfort zone. I can relate to a lot of that, because for years I would go to networking events. I hate networking events, by the way, but I would make myself go alone. That's another key. Go by yourself. Do not bring a friend, right? Because if you bring a friend, you'll be talking to them all night, and that defeats the whole point of you going. So I would make myself go alone. So I would have to speak to people. I would have to introduce myself. I would have to do all of these things. But I think, like what you're saying, Michela, is when you know that there's a greater purpose for your life, you almost can't let these things stand in your way. It's like, by all means necessary, I have got to become this better version of me that I can see on the inside. Is that kind of what you were saying earlier?
Yeah, that's my philosophy, and that's been my experience. And this isn't for everybody. This is for those people who believe in living, and finding out their purpose, and who want more fulfillment, right, in terms of doing a business or even being in a career that is aligned to their values, that is aligned to what's important to them, what they care about in the world. And so that's who, I think who we're speaking to here is that person who knows, right? They have that soul gut whisper of, yeah, I'm here for something bigger, and I do have a message, and I do have a bigger purpose here, and I really want to step into that. And it gets to a point, Mildred, I'm sure your experience of this is very similar. It gets to a point where there's no other choice. I mean, you can't, once you know that there's a purpose, and what what you're meant to do, you can't unknow it. You can't unlearn it. You can't just say, oh no, I'm just not going to do that. I'm going to go back to this other thing. You can't, because it's this internal calling that you have. And so for me, that's, I'm a big believer in, your business is a teacher for what you need to learn about yourself. And so I love dealing with this trifecta of, like, who are you as a person? What do you care about? What are your strengths? What are your gifts? And then the second thing is, what does your spirit and soul want for you? And what is that purpose you have in the world? And then what is the strategy to get it out there, and to get it out there in a way that is, again, aligned to who you are and what you're doing in the world, so that you can, have a business that is creating impact and making a profit, and having you fulfill your greater purpose in the world.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, all of them so important. And by the way, if you're listening to this right now, even on replay, and you can relate, and this is resonating with you, you're saying, yes, Michela, Mildred, yes, that's me. I feel this deeper sense of calling, drop it in the comments. Let us know. We want to support you, in this process. So just write in the comments, say that's me, or I feel it, whatever you want, however you want to put it. Because I also passionately believe that we are all called for a reason. We all have a purpose. We all have an audience. We all have a people that we're meant to serve. And visibility gives you a vehicle to get that message and that purpose out there into the world. So if that resonates with you, drop it in the comments and let us know, so we know who we're connecting with on here. So Michela, so you get to about 18 and you deal, late teens, you said, and you deal with the speech impediment, but it wasn't until about 30 that you actually started public speaking, and you started doing dance and flamenco, you said in one of your posts, to kind of break out of this. What was that kind of 10, 15, what was that period like before this 30, where you still haven't stepped into who you were? What was that like, navigating a career, being this person that you were trying to overcome? Tell us a little bit about that window of time before you step into your 30 mark, and what happens after that.
Oh gosh, the messy 20s, you mean?
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Yeah, so I had a lot. I had a lot on my plate. So I was already not living at home with my parents. So I was actually juggling a lot. I was working a full time job. I was going to school in the evenings to finish my degree. And I was really trying to figure out who I was. I was really focused on my career. I was focusing on finishing my education, and that was my full-time focus at the time. But I kept bumping up against myself, right? Because I was avoiding speaking. I was avoiding, fully, stepping into my voice, using my voice. And I was still doing a lot of hiding. And so it was a big struggle. It was a big struggle, very frustrating. And so I got to a point where I believe I was 29 years old. And that's when I just couldn't take it anymore. It was becoming more and more clear to me that, working for other people and, being, in a marketing role, having a job, working my way up, the corporate ladder, so to speak, it wasn't fulfilling. And so I left, and really it was to search for what I'm here to do in the world. And so that led to, launching out on my own. And then there were a couple of years there where, I was juggling a lot of personal challenges, family challenges. And it just got to that point where, a lot of things happened, some death in the family and a lot of loss that I went through. And at that point, I just said, okay, it's time now. When you go through something, whether it's, loss, illness, you're grieving, you're going through a transition in your life, whatever that may be, you're just not the same person anymore, and what was important before is no longer important. Your values change. And so that's what happened to me. So at about 29, 30, 31, around that age, I just, it was like, okay, the time is now. I just can't be that person anymore. I really need to step into, really getting serious about what the purpose is and what am I here to do, because I can't be that other person anymore. It's just not me. And so, and then, the catalyst then was when I walk into a flamenco restaurant in my local neighborhood to have dinner. And I didn't know anything about flamenco before then, but it was a Spanish restaurant, having dinner there. And here comes a dancer and a couple of musicians. And I'm like, what is this? And she comes out and she's like, so powerful, and she's beautiful, and she's got this presence, and she's standing there on the stage and she's like doing the moves. And I'm like, who's this woman? Like, I want to be like this woman. Like, she had so much presence. She knew who she was. She was commanding attention. She was telling a story, through her dance. And it was at that moment that I could see she was mirroring a possibility for me in terms of, wow, this is what happens when you stand up and you show yourself. And it's so powerful. And so that was the kind of the final straw where, afterwards I walked up to her and I asked her, can you teach me how to dance? How do I do this? How do I get involved in this? And really, because I just had a feeling that might be the thing that could help me really then get the confidence that I needed to be able to show myself. Right. And so that card was in my wallet for about a year until I finally got the nerve to reach out and start lessons and that sort of thing. And then that launched everything else. So the more I danced, the more confident I got, and that had ripple effects into my business. And then I started public speaking for real, and stepping into various leadership positions to grow community and to support other women entrepreneurs, and so that's how it all started.
I love that. I absolutely love that. You know, if you want to see a picture of Michela in her flamenco outfit, she posted about it. Was it this week or last week? You know, on her in her post. So go check her out. Go follow her and go check out that post. She looks absolutely lovely in that. I just need a video of you doing the dance now, and then it's all complete, right? You know, I love it. But Carol says it's I can identify with a lot of what you're saying is resonating with One Maka and so many others on there. So that is amazing. One Maka says I struggle a lot with speaking and passing my ideas to others. I'm on leave right now trying to figure out my purpose, vision, and path are for my life. So yes, do you have any quick advice to give One Maka before we transition the conversation into kind of more towards like visibility, LinkedIn, and profitability?
Yeah, so struggling with speaking and passing ideas on to others. So one of the things so I don't know which part that you're struggling with, but one of the things that really helped me as a tool was to get more clarity on the message. And so one thing that you could try is to write down a list, if you will, of the topic areas. Like, what are you really passionate about? And I've actually did a video on this a few months ago, posted on LinkedIn, which is really about creating your own manifesto. Like, if you were to stand on a soapbox, what are the categories or topic areas that you're really passionate about talking about? You know, you could also do a mind map, you know, where you just kind of draw it out with bubbles, you know, so that you really kind of get clear on what are those topic areas, and let that be your guide, right? To really then explore that even further. And once you have those topic areas or those categories, then I encourage you to start speaking it, start writing it. For me, I love to write. And so before I started speaking, I was writing a lot. And what that did was that helped me clarify the messages, and it helped me get more refined and clear on, you know, what it was about the topic of empowerment, as an example. What about the topic of visibility? Like, what exactly about that was I passionate? Why was I passionate about that? And so the more you write it, the more you speak it, the more you share it in whatever way you can, whether it's through speaking or writing, the more you'll get clear on the path and the vision and the purpose. I find a lot of times, especially with the, you know, the super smart women, you know, we tend to overthink and try and think it all out, or we just try and figure it all out on our own before we step out and share it. That was definitely my experience. I spent way too much time, trying to draw it out on the whiteboard before I actually published. And I found that once I just started publishing it, even though it was half baked, the quicker I was able to get clarity. And then through the publishing, then I could leverage the words, and then I used the words many years later for the speaking topics. So that was my journey to that.
And that's the beauty of LinkedIn as well, because you can publish your ideas in the form of posts. You know, it doesn't have to be long, you know, drawn out articles, but just putting those ideas out there on LinkedIn. Some of them you get validation in terms of it's resonating with your audience. Some will fall dead in the water, and that's okay. But it's the quicker you start to get your ideas out there, the quicker you start being visible and showing up with content on a platform like LinkedIn, the easier it will be over time for you to kind of really refine that message that Michela's speaking about, knowing that, all right, this is my message. This is what I love talking about. This is what lights me up. And this is what people resonate with. And then you can turn that into that visibility into profitability. So with that transition, let's talk about your relationship with LinkedIn, Michela. So what brought you onto this platform, and what were you looking for in this platform in relation to your business and how it could help you in that respect?
Yeah, so for me, I primarily, for the past 13 years have been growing my business via, building relationships with people, being involved in other people's communities, running my own communities, and speaking on stages, speaking and teaching on stages in other people's communities. And so what I wanted was, I really wanted to kind of crack this social media piece because I, didn't have a strategy for how to use social media as a way to generate opportunities, to generate leads, to generate clients. And so I, knew that LinkedIn was a really powerful platform. And I've been on LinkedIn for many, many years. But I didn't have a strategy. I didn't know, what to post, how to get engagement, how to do it strategically. Because I'd been doing it the other way for years, where I just put content up there, once in a while, repurpose my blogs, videos, etc. But there's no method behind what I was doing. And so the growth was very slow and very organic. And so that's why I reached out to you, because I really wanted to get a strategy, and I wanted to use it in a really proactive way to, to generate and create opportunities, and create more impact. So.
Yes, absolutely. That strategy piece is important, So trying to build a business of any kind without a strategy is a little bit of madness, or at least will frustrate you. At the very least, it will frustrate you a lot, So, all right, so you get on to LinkedIn and you want to have the strategy. Let's talk about your business and what is the strategy that you're implementing on LinkedIn to help you to be more visible in your business and to be more profitable in terms of attracting opportunities and clients?
Yeah. So with your help, and using your, systems and your processes and getting your coaching, it was really, number one, getting super clear on which of my service I wanted to lead with. And so having that core offer, of what I wanted to kind of drive traffic to, if you will, or, make aware of, was really key. So getting very focused and very clear on what is the leading core offer, program, service, that I wanted to be known for, on LinkedIn. So that was number one, is getting that clarity and that focus. The second piece is then getting super clear on who is that one person that I'm talking to, who's my perfect future client for that particular service. So refining that to the point where I was very clear on, their fears and frustrations and what their aspirations and desires are. And then putting out content, right? So 3 to 5 times a week, showing up consistently, to put out content, to share, to speak to that person, and to develop a content plan that is really aligned with, what am I passionate about speaking about? What is my manifesto of my topics, and what do they need in terms of, the mindset shift, or the education, or the inspiration, and marrying those two pieces to then put out content that resonates. And I put out content in the form of, written content, videos that are like carousels, and recorded videos of me speaking, and then also the LinkedIn Live series, which again was a very specific topic for that audience, and showing up and making an offer. And that's the key is, and I talk about this a lot, is visibility is great. Visibility creates more visibility. It creates great exposure. You can increase your brand awareness. But visibility in and of itself doesn't really lead anywhere. You have to be bridging into what you want people to do next. So connecting that with a very clear offer, a very clear invitation, a very clear next step to pull people into what's the next step of learning more about you and what you have to offer. So really assembling all of those pieces together, and then putting that out there and being consistent with it, in addition to really then proactively growing my network on LinkedIn in a very proactive way, and connecting and commenting. And so it's, there's a lot of pieces that go into it. And what I appreciate about it is that it's a holistic approach, right? You can't just go there once in a while and just post some stuff. There's a number of different pieces that need to come together to create, to create the magic that then happens. And for me, it was like some of my posts got incredibly high impressions and engagement and comments that I've never experienced before, like into the thousands. Reposts, people reposting my stuff, inquiries, for discovery calls, inquiries for speaking engagements, growing my network of my perfect future clients. All of those things happen from, having that really focused and consistent and holistic approach.
I love that. All of that is possible if you implement that strategy and have that focus, as you mentioned. Because we're down to the final few minutes, and I want you to leave one final word of advice for our audience. But there's a LinkedIn user who's asking 3 to 5 pieces of content. Is that the recommendation number? It seems a lot, I of course I can speak to that, all day long I can speak to that. But Michela, what would your response to that be?
So, it is a lot, but, the thing is that, not everybody is going to see your content, and not everyone is going to resonate with all your content. So, and you're building a brand. And so it's, once you get into the groove of posting content, what I noticed was that I had so much to say. Like the more if you've got the plan, right, and you know why you're doing it, you know who you're speaking to, you have the plan, you've got your topic areas, you're clear about your purpose and your why, and you're very passionate about moving that vision and that movement forward, you will be surprised at how much you have to say. And I remember saying to Mildred when she started me off with 3 posts a week, and I started doing that. And after a while I said to her, could I post 5? Because I really think I have a lot more to say. And so, you would be surprised at what unfolds for you in terms of content ideas and what you have to share. And so, like anything, right, it's you got to commit to it. It's a commitment that you make, and it's a strategy in your business. So, you want to take a look at, what are the marketing and lead generation strategies or funnels, if you will, do you already have in your business, right? And so If you don't have any, then, LinkedIn is a good one, a viable one, depending on what your business is. But for most people, it is going to be a really good way to get out there, get visible, and get profitable. If you already have 2 good funnels operating and you're getting leads from those, then, do you need to add a third one? You don't need to be doing everything, right? Mildred, it's like you've got to be doing 1 or 2 things, but committing the time to doing them and to doing them well. And if you're doing that, then, then you're set. If you don't have time to do that, to put in the work, then my question is, well, what are you spending your time on for marketing and lead generation? And is that working? Because, if you are trying to post on all the platforms and, trying to post different content on all the platforms, then yeah, that is too much. And that's probably not going to work very well for you.
Yeah, I love that. And I absolutely agree that consistency, whatever you're going to do, commit to it and stay consistent, because if you do a little bit here and you give up after a few days because you haven't seen any progress, and then you try something else and you try something else, it's not going to work for you. So because we are almost at the top of the hour, I can see the questions coming in through the comments. We might have to just go back and answer those by text, because I don't want to keep you guys too long on here, but we'll deal with a network question. We'll probably go back and answer that, Michela, won't we, and help out with the questions in the comment. But yeah. I want you to leave our audience with one final piece of advice in terms of, okay, so they've listened to this, they're like, okay, what is the number one thing that you would recommend that somebody does to build a visible and profitable business, whether that's on LinkedIn or beyond? Like, what worked most effectively for you, and what would you suggest to someone who's listening to this right now, who's thinking, how do I start creating? I wish we had longer, there's so much to talk about, around that profitability side. But listen, you just got to come back for the rest of this month, right? But what would your top tip, number one advice be for somebody who's got that question and they're listening right now?
The top tip that I have is for you to really know that your message matters. Somebody out there needs to hear it. And that is the first step, is to really know in your heart that you have something to say. And don't listen to the lies, that we tell ourselves about, who wants to hear what I have to say. And I don't, my story is, not that interesting, or, nobody wants to hear it. Everything's been said already. That is a lie. Your message matters. And there's somebody out there that needs to hear it. And by way of you committing to being visible, to stepping out of the shadows and into your spotlight, and really start speaking the message and writing the message, even if it's clunky, that is what you're meant to be doing. And so just know that you have the right, to be seen and to be heard, and somebody needs to hear that message. And so I encourage you to have the courage to start speaking it and to start writing it, and then get support along the way. Have somebody in your corner to help you get really strategic, so that you're not doing it alone, because it's too hard to do it alone. It's too easy to slink back into the shadows when you're on your own, especially if you're just starting to come out, with that message.
I love that. How powerful. Come out of the shadows. And if you need help doing it, please seek out Michela, she's not just a business navigator, she's your business navigator. I love the your addition to it. So yes, please do. Please get in touch with me if you need further support. Michaela, how can people reach out to you? What can they get from you if they want to know more about working with you? Here's your moment to tell us how to take that next step.
Right. So I'm on LinkedIn. So follow me on LinkedIn at Michela Quilici, and you'll get all of my tips and insights with my content that I post on a 5 days a week. And if you are interested in grabbing some free resources, I've got a bunch of free resources on my website, michelaquilici.com, that will help you get clarity with your marketing and sales to grow your business with more ease and less struggle. If you're interested in learning more about working with me and what that looks like, then you can navigate to that on the website itself to get in touch.
Love it. Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, you heard the ladies, so go and do it. Go connect with her if you're not already connected, and go follow her for that. So, and yes, thank you so much. There's so much in the comments. I'm gonna get Michaela to promise that she'll go through the comments at some point as well in the next couple of days or so, as will I, and we'll get back to the questions that we didn't get the chance to talk over. But I want to thank you so much for your time, Michaela, tonight. It has been a real pleasure. And from what the ladies and gents have been sharing in the comments, you've been really, really inspirational, and lots of people can connect with your story and your journey. So thank you for being open and sharing that with us tonight.
Thank you. And thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure, and just love what you're doing to support people to be visible and to create opportunity on LinkedIn and beyond. So thank you so much, Mildred, for the work that you're doing in the world.
Thank you, Michaela. Wonderful. And we will catch up. Take care, Michaela. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye. Okay, so that's it. We are done for today. But as I said, we are live all throughout this month. I'm going to be going live every Monday with a different guest. So many fantastic women. Michaela was absolutely fantastic. So please do follow her and connect with her. So every Monday evening at the same time, come and join me where we're going to have a conversation with another awesome visible woman on LinkedIn. And then on Tuesday lunchtime, so tomorrow at lunchtime, 1 o'clock. Come and join me. I'm actually going to talk tomorrow in terms of how to build a visible and profitable business on LinkedIn. I'm going to talk about, do you even have a business to begin with? That's where we're going to start that journey with. So if you want to know more about what I'm going to be sharing there, tune in tomorrow at 1 o'clock, 1 p.m. UK time. So I'm going to sign off. Thank you so much again for joining us live. It's been a real pleasure having you and your contributions. If you are watching this on replay, let me know in the replay. Add your questions, your comments, whatever it is, and me and Michaela will come to you at some point and with a response. But have a lovely rest of the day, whatever it is you're up to. And I will see you back here next Monday at the same time. All right, take care for now.